my own stepfather, there we go, my own stepfather who died in December, who had advanced Parkinson's. So one of the things that I am often asked to do is I run a technology program for us at Mercy Health that supplies technology to the community for technology that they might not have access to. So we have a program called Lend a Voice that provides iPads and higher end technology for people who cannot speak and need to use their eyes in order to be able to say words with a computer. iPad was the first thing that I started programming in, and it became something that it solved a challenge for me with one of my family members who could not project their voice. Turns out they were also somebody who had ALS, and so they also could not later speak. And so there's lots of AAC apps, assistive and alternative communication applications that allow people to speak as part of that. It has phrases within it. It's really kind of neat. There's all sorts of ones. There's some that you can start on one device and then move up to an eye gaze device. So that's what started me on this path towards technology. And I would consider myself really a technology geek and somebody who really likes to solve problems and challenges for people. And so some of these things that I'm going to talk about tonight are challenges that are things that people have brought to me. And why would we, let's see, why am I not? There we go. All right. So why technology solutions? Personal devices that can solve technology problems for Parkinson's, for issues or symptoms with Parkinson's disease are super important. One, it can be quality of life. The additional thing, it can make personal care situations more safe. And that's often some things where my stepfather was falling, and that was one of the things that was really hard for us, in that his legs could no longer support him, and his will to go forward and get somewhere was way superior to the ability for his legs to move along with him. And that was hard for him, but it also made it an unsafe situation for both he and my mother. And caregivers are a key part of who I work with. So I have a caregiver group for people with advanced Parkinson's. So it's the caregiver that comes to that group. And it's really about bringing to the forefront challenges or challenging situations that allow people like myself or other peer mentors to be able to chime in and help somebody out if they're having a challenging situation. Next thing is personal devices can extend somebody's independence. That's really what we all want. We want the ability to be independent as long as possible. Some, like my stepfather, who had really been somebody who, he was 92 when he passed. And so he, of course, had a very full life, but he had been a professor at the University of Michigan and at Princeton University, somebody who was a computer scientist. He built the technology behind Google. So he was somebody who his whole life he was able to do exactly what he wanted. And during the time when we were caregiving for him, that was one of the things he would say, things like, I still have free will. And so we wanted him to have free will. We also needed him to be safe. And so those were some of the things that we had to navigate as caregivers, my mom and I, in order to be able to keep him safe. Lastly, keeping extended family more connected. So all of us have families that are all over now. And, you know, if we have families that are all over, we still want them to stay connected with the person who has Parkinson's, even though it may not be safe for them to travel anymore, or it's really hard to travel. And it is something that it would be really hard for them to travel on a frequently basis. So the pandemic taught all of us that that was something that we sort of stopped doing. And I think travel is beginning to get up and running again right now. But this is something that, you know, being able to keep in touch. One of my families that I supported used the Facebook app which actually comes on they supply it on a device that is about the size of one of the other pieces of technology that I have. And that was how the grandchildren and great-grandchildren would keep in touch with their grandfather and great-grandfather. So it was something they could do on Sunday nights. They had one of the boys in this family that was assigned to actually provide Friday night entertainment, and they would I think play a game that they were doing. You know, they had a card game that they did that was a collaborative card game that they could actually do together. And so that was somewhat fun for them to be able to do. He was an assisted living center, and that was something that his wife could pop in on him at any time, or he could pop in on his wife in order to be able to ask questions. And so those are things that being able to keep safe and communicate in a way that works for everybody. Finally, tracking symptoms and medication use. So all of us know that people with Parkinson's disease take medication, or if they aren't taking it now, they will likely be taking medication to reduce the symptoms that they're having from Parkinson's disease. So tracking symptoms, alerting to people that need to have medication, that it's time to take it. Now, some people know that, and they're not going to use that aspect of it, but a lot of the technology I'm going to show is scalable for a lot of different things. All right, so 10 personal technology solutions based on, really, these are things that patients and caregiver requested were at our center for things that they were looking to do. So really, Apple Watch with fall notification. So this is the, sorry, my husband's bringing in another thing that I'm going to show that I forgot, box that I forgot downstairs. So this is one of the things I'm going to show last. So Apple Watch with fall notification. So does anybody have an Apple Watch? Raise your hand if you do. All right, I see a couple. Yep. So the fall notification on the Apple Watch is only available on certain levels of watches. So Apple Watch 4 or higher. These have come down tremendously in price. We have them as part of our loaner closet. So we have Apple Watches that have been donated to us that can be provided or deployed to people if they want to try it. But what it does is it notifies somebody if you've fallen. And I'm going to show details on this in a little bit. Amazon Echo Show from Amazon, and my Alexa will probably go off, but this is what the Amazon Show looks like. It's a little camera that looks like this. It has a stand. It has a speaker on it in the back, and it plays video, and you can video phone from that. So you can pop in via video, just like I explained with the Facebook app. So that's one of the things that a lot of families, in order to extend the independence of somebody, that they could get access to somebody else via voice by saying, call whomever your name is, call Barbara, call Barbara's iPad. And though that device, the Alexa device, will dial that and connect those people face to face. So really handy thing to have. Voice activated channel changing. You know, when we got our new Xfinity device, which we delayed at trying to get, this had voice channel changing on it. And I thought, I'm never going to use that. I use this thing all the time because I only watch probably 1 or 2 channels, and it's never on that channel when I go to watch TV. And so being able to voice something or voice a movie that I want to watch in order to be able to get it up is very, very quick, and keeps me from having to do a bunch of channel changing and surf into something only to not have it be as fast as I want it to be. Xfinity Home with digital camera and sound. So this is a service that Xfinity provides as part of a security system. How some of our families have used it have been as part of a caregiving situation, when they have other caregivers that come into the room, or caregivers that come in from an outside service. That person needs to be safe while they're at home. In my own situation, my stepfather was supposed to stay in the house, he would become a little bit disconcerted and agitated when my mom would leave. But at this point, the doctor and she said that he could still be left alone. Well, until that day, he couldn't be left alone. And in this case, he went out of the house. They'd just moved to a new house, so he was not familiar with the surroundings. There was also a stream back behind the house that was pretty treacherous, and he started walking around the house. So I could see that on my iPhone, that I could bring up the home app, and I could, first of all, I was notified that the door opened. And so I could look at what was going on because I didn't expect the door to be opened. My mom had run to go pick up some new medication for him. She was going to be back in 10 minutes. I called her right away and said, please turn around. You need to get back. And I started over there. We had recently moved my family, them over to be less than 5 minutes away from me for this exact reason. Both of us got there at the same time. He was not at our house or their house, and we couldn't find him, but we divided up and gradually we found him. He was going around and checking the doors at other people's houses because in a condo complex, they all look the same. So how could he know the difference if he was not familiar with the streets and things like that? And this was during the pandemic. And so, those were not things that you were going over to people's houses. Fitbit watch to be able to measure your own sleep. Now, we have these as part of our loan closet, and I'm going to show you my Fitbit here, which looks like this. And it's backwards because, of course, my camera's backwards, but it's just a watch. It tracks how many steps I make or don't make, as the case may be. It also allows me to see how I sleep. And I'm a notoriously poor sleeper. So this was something that I was looking for in a device. It allows me to see how long I've spent in deep sleep. It allows me to see how long I've slept in REM sleep. And it also allows me to see whether there were any variations in my breathing that would be sleep apnea or something like that. Now, is this a professional device that's going to keep somebody from going to a sleep doctor in order to have that checked out? Absolutely not. What it does do, and I'll tell you what somebody came to me when we first got these for our loan closet. They said, I am sleeping worse than I ever did. This was during the first part of the pandemic, and they were waking when they were sleeping, and then they wouldn't be able to get back to sleep. And they were also really, really sluggish in the morning. And this was not the usual for this person. And we tried to get her into our sleep doctor. And of course, they were scheduling out quite a while. I think it was almost 6 months at that point. And so I talked to our sleep doctor and said, is it okay if, as part of our technology program, can we lend her this Fitbit app so she can have some insight into what's going on with her sleep? And I'll show you some details on this after that. I'll cut to the chase on this is, yes, it did help her. It also helped her see what worked. So whenever you have something that you're trying to change in order to see whether you can make it better or worse, you have to have active insight into those things. And what this allowed her to do is to see when she stopped drinking at 9 o'clock, stopped drinking water at 9 o'clock, did it help her sleep better? When she had her room cooler, did it help her sleep better? So those were all things that she was able to troubleshoot even before she got into the sleep doctor. In fact, by the time she got into the sleep doctor, the only thing that really wasn't addressed is really sleep apnea, which you really want somebody to professionally address that. And she does wear a BiPAP now, or a CPAP. iPad with accessibility features that allows compensation for tremor. So nearly all devices now, whether they're Apple, whether they're Windows, whether they're iPads, whether they're Galaxy tablets, have accessibility features that allow you to fine tune how the capacitive touch, which is what allows an iPad or a phone to work, it allows you to fine tune what you can do with the ability when you have a tremor. So in a tremor, you might double tap, or you might triple tap, or you might tap and hold, because that is a compensation for a tremor. All of those things you can compensate on an iPad, your iPhone, or on a Galaxy tablet. It's really nice and important, because if you're using it to read and turn a page or dial a phone, those are things that you want to be able to do without having to redo them over and over again. And so that is something that if somebody has a iPad device, Barbara, I'm looking at you have an iPad that you're looking on now. Those are things that are available whether you're using them or not. But certainly if you ran into where that was something where you weren't effective at touching what you needed to touch in the current setting, those are settings that we could work on in order to make sure that that was better for you than it was previously when you were struggling. A mouse is one of the things that a lot of people struggle with. There is also a mouse that actually does this adaptive touch as well. iPad for personal reading or listening device. So iPads play music, not just music, but the music you like, which is more important. Also the Echo Show also plays music, again, music you like. But what we have used this for, and again, we have these as part of our lending library, is for people to be able to read on them. And reading like you would on a computer where you're able to turn the pages and you're just clicking it, that's one way. But we also have the ability to take those books and actually play them and have the iPad read it to you. So somebody who can no longer, maybe prisms in their glasses are making it so it's really difficult for them to read. We can always change the size of the type, which also helps out, but maybe that isn't enough. And maybe that's something that we need to figure out something else around. Almost every library, public library, has the ability to provide books via remote delivery. Sometimes it takes setting it up on the app that specific library is using. You don't have to buy them to have them on Kindle. You don't have to buy them. You can essentially check them out from the library and read them on your device in a variety of different apps. I have some favorites. I'll tell you a story of a woman who was part of a church group, and they had a book club. And this was really important to her because she'd moved to be closer to her daughter. There were two people in this book club group that she knew. And so really, these were really her social circle. And it was not something that she had any other social activities that allowed her to be kind of engaged in the community. She found it very difficult to read. She couldn't hold the book or the pages. She had both essential tremor and Parkinson's. And so while she had DBS that worked on the Parkinson's, the area had not yet been done and has since been done for the essential tremor. So she didn't have bilateral, she only had unilateral. So one of the things was she couldn't read because of the book shaking. She also couldn't turn the pages on a regular iPad. So we got the advanced book list for the book club in advance and went to the library, she and I together, got all the books downloaded so she could have those to plan ahead. And it allowed her to participate in not only the conversation about those books, it gave her the ability to listen to those books and read them in a timetable that she could do. But also, and I asked her this, I said, did you ever let anybody know how you're reading these books? And she said, no, because they told me that they would exclude me if I couldn't read the books and contribute. And I thought, well, that's on a level of book club meanness that I didn't think that I would see. And I don't think they meant it that way, but in reality, she wanted to be able to contribute and be part of that. That was what was really important to her. So providing an iPad that she is still using to this day 6 years later, and we've had to update it twice to newer technology in order for, we started out with actually an iPad 2, which is the second generation of iPads. And we've gradually, as we've gotten other ones donated to us, we've upgraded her. And she last year read 112 books. That's a lot of books for anyone, but a lot of books for somebody who's participating in a book club and wants to be able to contribute. So this was super important to her. Plugs or plugging in voice activated devices. So this is what a plug looks like. It is got computer chip in it. You plug it into your outlet, and then you use either Alexa or another voice activated device to be able to say, in my case, I say Alexa's name, turn on the light. And I can turn on the lights upstairs and I can turn on the lights downstairs by different voice commands. For me, navigating stairs, or somebody else in my family navigating stairs, definitely important. So that is something that is real easy to put together, and it can be done from an iPad, a phone, or an Alexa device that you may have, Echo Show, or the little disc that allows you to voice that command. Number 9, at-home exercise. So I've been really impressed with the Michigan Parkinson's Foundation at-home exercise that they've had during the pandemic. In fact, we had on-site exercise that was every Monday or every Wednesday and Friday at our center that, of course, during the pandemic no longer existed. And so this was something that we connected a lot of people to, that training that was being done via Zoom at Michigan Parkinson's Foundation. And we had Mary Sue come in and talk about it initially at our Parkinson's group that is also on Zoom. But what I was really impressed at is first of all, it was a good quality workout. And there are still, beyond that, there are other things that you can do. There's an app that is that recommended by the Davis Finney Foundation that is a rehab-based app. And it right now doesn't require any subscription. There's no cost to download it. And it is a very good rehab, very good for rehab, especially if you have had an injury or are working on an injury. There is a PT involved in it, and there is some consultation with them in order to make sure that the goals are the right for both of you. And then there's a synopsis of the things that would be helpful for you, and also the frequency of which they can be done. So again, not having to go anywhere for exercise or rehab or things like that. All right, so this is the watch, the Apple Watch with fall detection. And I'm going to move my little pictures out of the way so I can see everybody. So what this is again, it's just a watch. You can see your steps on it. You can see the time on it. You can navigate a bunch of different apps. Apple Watches are as much or as little as you want them to be. But this I really like, because as we have had people that are walking with a walker or navigating stairs up and down in their own household, and you're worried about that safety. My stepfather, during his first fall, that was kind of the start of his downward trend. This alerted me right away. He said, "I'm okay," which is the choice. Essentially, you choose, it is an emergency or is it I'm okay. If you are moving, it actually puts a pause on it until you answer that. If you don't answer it, it will contact your emergency SOS person. So it doesn't contact the emergency within your own EMS. What it does is it contacts anybody who you've designated your emergency contact. For me, this comes up right away. It always uses the dial tone on it because I have it set that way, and allowed me to see he fell. And of course he put "I'm okay," but still at this time also my mom had been out. And so I was able to go over there. And yeah, he wasn't okay. But I don't know that he would have known that unless we got the alert and were able to do some detection. He still said he was okay. Turns out once we finally had him to U of M, that he'd broken 3 vertebrae that required a hard shell-like turtle thing in order to make sure that he didn't injure them any further. I was super glad to know that. If I hadn't known it and he started having pain, it might have been too late to do anything about it. And so this was really important to me. Alexa Show from Amazon. Again, this is the device that plays music, keeps calendar appointments. It tells you when there is, when I'm going over in a meeting. It alerts to medication appointments or medication that you need to take it. My Alexa just said, I don't know that, when I asked it to tell me when I'm going over. Doorbell surveillance. So there are Ring devices that actually go on Alexa also. So if I had a Ring device connected to this Alexa, I could say, Alexa, who's at the door? And it would show me who's at the door. I have a son who has autism. And so this has allowed him to be really independent, do his own calendaring, order food. He eats the same cereal, the things that he needs to eat, so he can order those over Alexa. So it has allowed him to be independent in a way that I really wouldn't have anticipated, and also thrive. And so for me, that was also important with for having Alexa. We have these upstairs as well as downstairs, and I have these as part of our loan closet. We have probably 4 or 5 that are currently in our loan closet now. In fact, this is one of them, that are available to deploy kind of at the drop of a hat if we have a caregiver who is really looking to make some changes and make her family member safe, or is really looking to how to organize kind of all the things that people have going on, maybe rehab appointments, maybe new medication, maybe surgical appointments, maybe reminding somebody to take their blood pressure. So those are all things that we use Alexa for. Voice activated channel changing. I'm pretty sure if you have a TV and you have service through Xfinity, Dish, any of the other ones you have, nearly everybody has this option now. Again, I didn't think that this would be something I use. However, I do, and I actually really like it. Xfinity home monitoring. This is the little camera that you see over there by the, I'm going to circle it, the camera here. We had these in 3 separate rooms in order to be able to, the rooms that my stepfather sat in to read his computer and read books on his computer. We had one downstairs, so if he navigated downstairs and my mom was in another part of the house and couldn't hear that, we knew because it alerted us. And we had one in the living room, where we knew that if he turned on the stove and those sorts of things. Now, those were things that he stopped being able to communicate with us. But when he had needs, you could tell because he would start to wander around, and we could figure out what he was looking for or what he wanted based on kind of running down a short list of things that, doing the same things earlier, we were able to see what he needed. This helped us. It also has voice on it, so that if somebody is home alone or there's an intruder, you can hear what they're saying, and also you can talk to them. And you've probably seen these on the commercials where somebody is monitoring their outdoors and they see intruders come up to the house and looking at their stuff, and they set off an alarm. All of those things are available through this. And while my stepfather is not alive anymore, we still use this for my mom, who's going through some health challenges. And during a time recently where she had pneumonia, it told me when her cough was really atrocious, and we were able to continue to try to get her treatment for that, which eventually meant at least 3 different medications. And so while I never thought that coughing would be something that this would recognize and alert me to, this was something that we ended up doing or having her use for that. This is the Fitbit for hacking your sleep. So yeah, on the block that has red on it and two different color blues, you'll see where it's indicated REM sleep. So this person had 2 hours and 2 minutes of REM sleep. Light sleep was 3 hours and 24 minutes, and then also deep sleep, which is the part where your brain cleans itself. Super important in terms of making a healthy brain. It allows you to see what areas you're sleeping. These 4 or 5 areas that are lowest, where it on the left-hand side where it says deep sleep, you can see here, this allows you to show how much deep sleep you had. It allows you to show, really, these are waking points. So in my household, because I sleep with my son's baby dog, this is always when I have the baby dog trying to snuggle with me, and I don't really want to snuggle with her. So that's what mine does. The REM sleep and the light sleep are also important, and it allows you to see when, with a timetable, that these are in. What time of day were they? Was this 3 o'clock in the morning? You can see that this person, they started a REM sleep at about 3 o'clock in the morning. And REM sleep is when you dream. So a lot of times people who dream and have REM sleep right before they wake up, like this person does, they'll remember their dreams. So this allows you to see kind of what's happening at night with a simple watch that is relatively inexpensive and we have as part of our loan closet. So this person who was looking to have a sleep study ended up using a watch exactly like this, except it was purple, and she was really happy about that. It also allowed her to see these differences in this, which is actually when there were differences in her breathing, and it allowed her to see that there were likely apnea things going on, which made us, absolutely want her to get a professional sleep study from our sleep doctors, which we would have done anyway. But it did allow her to tinker with what we call sleep hygiene things that prepare her for sleep and make her ready for sleep and allow her to sleep better. Things like not having water too close to bedtime, not using technology before you go to sleep, not having a TV in your bedroom, making the room you sleep in colder, which is always better for sleep. Not, not always reading in bed, but having a wind down thing that you do, whether it's brushing your teeth and then relaxing for a little bit before you go to bed. Those are all things like that are habits that we do that allow us to sleep better. Sometimes we have habits that we do that allow us to sleep worse, and you'd want to know that. And so that's what this app or this device did for her. She still has it. She then had another friend of hers who had Parkinson's, and they were both what I call hacking their sleep together. Both of them did very well on it. The second person, not as well as the first person, but there were different things going on in the sleep. This second person had very little REM sleep. And so while she did end up having a sleep study and talk to the doctor about REM sleep, those are things that, providing that information is helpful. And of course, they had a sleep study to be able to determine that themselves. But also, what are some of the things? Is your air conditioning clicking off in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning so that you're not able to go into REM sleep because all of a sudden the temperature in your bedroom is going up? Those are things that she was able to discover. Her dog snored, which was another thing she was able to discover. So all sorts of interesting things, but it was really helpful for her. All right. So the other ones that I have on our list, and I'm going to escape out of this, and I'm going to, if you guys can, I'm going to open you guys back up so I can see you. Can we turn on the ability for everyone to talk and see whether we have any questions? And I'm going to show some other things.
Yeah, I think everyone's going to have to take themselves off mute here, but we can definitely start taking some questions here. And also feel free, if for any reason it's not working, your microphone, feel free to put it in the chat as well.
This goes till 8 o'clock, correct?
Yep.
Okay, just want to make sure.
This is Julia.
Hi,
hope
Julia.
you can hear me okay. I just want to tell you, Susan, this was excellent so far. And being an adult child of Parkinson's, what a game changer all this technology would serve for peace of mind. The cameras, the Alexa, and I think it's important to point out, I was very intimidated by this new technology at first. And then with the internet and Bluetooth, knowing that all these devices don't need to be hardwired, really helped me make a decision to start using this. And I love the show because I get to talk to my grandchildren all the time.
And they probably love using it. Also, it kind of is like, you know, being able to independently call you up on that just with their voice is really, really, really neat. Yeah,
Yes.
I think that one thing is sometimes people are intimidated by it. I also think that having internet's important, and as a solution for that, Comcast or Xfinity has a program that people who are otherwise on a fixed budget can submit a form, and they will be activated for Xfinity if it's available in their neighborhood for under $20 a month. Now it controls bandwidth, but I can tell you, having done that at least 3 times now, 2 in assisted living where a family member wanted an Alexa and also to be able to voice dial for a loved one. We activated those for individual rooms within those assisted livings in order for them to be able to not have used the bandwidth of the actual assisted living. We had their own pipe for security, for privacy, for the things that we anticipated they might talk about in their conversations. But it was also invaluable, and again gave the independence of those people during the time when, you know, your disease is starting to remove those independent things that you're doing. And I really think dignity and autonomy is so important, no matter what disease you have or what you're struggling with, whether you have a family member struggling with. I really think that the ability to have dignity, personal dignity, as well as dignity within your family is so important that it almost is worth taking some of these steps, even if you think that these are things that you might struggle with. I can tell you that I take phone calls up until 9 o'clock at night, sometimes device related. I rarely have had to go out to fix things. In probably one situation where I had to do that, and it was really her internet that was broken. And it was the next day I was able to get to her. And she was a person with ALS that used it to talk and answer phone calls and things like that. So, you know, all of that independence is important. Any other questions that anybody has?
I see there's a question in the chat.
All right, let me bring up the chat here.
So Francis is asking, is there a device that can record your tremors, frequency, and length of duration?
So there is an Embrace watch, which runs on Google technology. It's also ironically the same thing that figures out whether somebody's having seizures. But it is allows people to record on a provided Galaxy tablet. This is often done before DBS. So in seeing whether, you know, what the off time is, what are some of the things that are happening, and how long are your medication lasting, those are things that can be done in an Embrace watch. I've been waiting for that. It's been out for 3 years. It's used on some clinical trials. It hasn't made its way to the kind of the consumer grade device, and I've been waiting for it because I think that, first of all, I'm that type of geek and I would get it and I would try to figure it out and I'd loan it to people. So I don't know where it is. It could be that Google, who had not a secure way to store this initially, but has been solved now. I think that it may have been waylaid from that, because they would have to have a portal where somebody like, if Julia wanted to record herself, she'd be able to log into a portal that nobody else would have access to. And so that requires some technology planning and some environments that are a little bit more complicated. And I think they originally saw this as a device for only clinical trials. I really think that it will be something that we will see in the next 2 years, for an individual use. And I think that it'll be important. I know the devices for seizures work. I support that community as well. I give a similar talk for seizure devices, and I think it's important. Nancy, I'm reading what you're saying. Are there people that can tutor you on accessibility because of tremors? Apple staff get impatient with me. Boy, that is so important, Nancy. I'm really glad that you brought that out. So yes, actually, we have peer mentors who have used the technology and can help people along. I myself am a peer mentor. A lot of times I'm the person who sets up some technology. And then we also have a support group where somebody might be trying to do something new on their device that they haven't done before. And somebody else who has done it can chime in and say how they've done it. Kind of the same way we share other things, like, what did you do when your medication started wearing off? How low did it get? So those are things that we share as part of any community. And I think that these technology things are also things that should and can be shared. It makes me sad that the accessibility or the Apple staff get impatient. There used to be a company out of Southfield that did these for me on this side of the state. He loved doing it. It was not, he donated far more of his time that he and ended up charging for. And he ended up having a daughter, so that took some of his time, and then he ended up going back to work because his wife needed to stay home with another daughter. So it kind of made me sad that he couldn't do this anymore, but I certainly understood that it was a priority for him, especially as the pandemic came. I think that there are going to be these types of things available. I think we have to generate kind of a community, just like any other community. And I think that that's really what drives these things. Let's see, I want to make sure I scroll up here. Sometimes senior centers have classes. I think that's important. Schoolcraft College has classes in this that you can go to. The person that's there is actually somebody who I have helped train as part of the dementia community, and does some of these things for caregivers that go into their caregiver group. If someone has significant dementia, expressions of aphasia, and difficulty with volume and word formation, is there some sort of AAC device that could aid in communication? Yes and no. So there is an app that allows people who have aphasia to practice at those things with aphasia. A lot of times this is after stroke. Again, we provide devices for people who've had a stroke, who need that, and it's a service that, again, they make progress with that as part of their rehabilitation. What I have found better when somebody has dementia is that there is a speaker and a boom mic that comes up, and they hook the speaker onto their belt, and whatever they say into that microphone, and sometimes it's some funny stuff, gets amplified. So it's called a voice amplifier. We have used that. I again used it with my stepfather. We use a lot in ALS, where they just can't force air out anymore. They don't have sustainable voice wind in order to be able to do that. Those are things where they will never improve. Even if they practice, they won't improve because it's a degenerative disease as part of that. If it's something like stroke, where there can be improvement for stroke, there are apps for that. again, that allow the voice amplification. It's kind of like having Big and Loud, but on an app, and it tracks it for you. How loud are you? It actually measures it for you. So that's one thing. What I can say is for dementia, because every case, just like Parkinson's, every case with dementia is different. And it really is determining what area of the brain was affected and how things can be deployed for what is still working. And sometimes that's hit or miss. Sometimes it works for a little bit and then it stops working. But for families, that sense of hope, it has helped because it's using it even for a little bit is something they didn't have earlier. And it shows a willingness for that person who has dementia to kind of work with the family, and it kind of gets everybody on the same page.
Yeah, and Susan, I think we have someone else asking, and I was just going to ask you as well. As far as those groups you mentioned, I know there's different support groups out there, which we do have that information on our website, the Michigan Parkinson Foundation website, as well as ones that aren't necessarily associated with the foundation. But I think those tech support groups you were mentioning specifically at Schoolcraft, is that something you can send us info on that we could share to our Facebook page?
I sure could. And I also think that maybe a quarterly technology group where, you have some people you could contact via email, but also that quarterly you might come in and, talk about what you're doing, other people could talk about what they're doing and see whether that's something that there's value in that for people. I think that there'd be value. We have those right now. It's generally people who are part of our, what I call Lend a Voice program, or our HELP program is Hohenstein Equipment Loan Program, which spells out help. Those people who are part of those groups now are part of that. And again, they're all on the west side of the state, but I'd be happy to, again, I'm over here, so it'd be something that we could start over here without, any problem.
Right.
I wanted to show you one last thing before we got out of this. And this is something that we use for dementia all the time. So this is a kitty cat who I'm going to turn on. Voice activated. And when I pet it, it purrs. I don't know whether you can hear the purring. It also nuzzles. And so for people who are at the level with dementia, there's dogs, not just cats, if you're not a cat person, who are wanting something that they can provide comfort to. This is the thing we recommend. You can get them at CVS. They're not for everybody. My dogs are barking because they hear the kitty cat meowing, but we have somebody who comes in who has pretty severe dementia and comes into our clinic with one of these on her lap. And so I looked into seeing whether we could get them in demonstrations. And this is a demo one that I got from CVS. I think that for the right person who would not be able to take care of a cat themselves, it's perfect. It provides the feedback on things that they're doing. You can see that it, does a bunch of, it has different tricks that it does. It has a paw that'll reach out to you. It does this with the paw. So anyway, that is something else. Again, it's at CVS in the pharmacy area, runs on batteries. I will turn her off. But again, nobody thinks of technology for these sorts of things. You can use Alexa in order to be able to schedule a dog walk. My dog knows when Alexa is going to ring, and she knows that she like gets ready. But these are really, really invaluable for the right person who is looking for comfort, is looking for passage of time and that self-soothing that you might have with your own pet. Any other questions? I think we're right on time.
Yes, I think we are. And I'm just seeing if my video works. It made me want to show everyone my dog who's been patiently waiting here with me this evening during this programming. But no, Susan, that was great. I think it was really, really helpful. And even myself, I use the Apple Watch almost on a daily basis. And it is nice just having those extra perks of knowing, even like I think the other day, I'm just clumsy in general, but if you trip and fall, just having that notification. And I think you can get it set up to send to emergency contacts and stuff like that. So I think this was just awesome and very helpful. And then for everyone asking, so we will post this to our YouTube page. It usually takes about a week here, but I will also get that information from Susan on the Schoolcraft College Tech Help and share that to our Facebook page as well for everyone.
I also have this presentation with all those other things, the detail pages on all those other things. I knew we weren't going to have time to do it, that I can provide to you as well.
Perfect. Yeah, and any just last minute questions that are popping up in anyone's head here? Looks like we are right on time.
My Alexa told me, you probably can hear in the background, she's like, 5-minute warning.
Oh, that's great.
Amazing. I have to say, Susan, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Susan, and thank you everyone for jumping on. If anyone has any one-off questions, feel free to give us a call in the office. But like I said, we'll get all this information to our YouTube and Facebook as well. All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to talk. I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Susan. Have a good evening, everyone.
Bye.